Hey everybody, this is my 40-gallon brackish tank, and right now I'm in the process of treating it for red cyanobacteria. The treatment I'm using is Chemi. It's a 2-day process, then you do a water change, and you should be up and running after that. I always do a second treatment just because I've got the air stone in the tank, I've got everything available, so I just go ahead and do a second treatment. So we've already done the water change, I've already got the glass cleaned down and all that. I will go ahead and insert all of that footage right here. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is get the air stone just up and out of the tank and get it out of the way. Don't even have to shut it off. And next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get that front glass wiped down. Now most of what's on this front glass here is just diatom algae, and it wipes off really easily. It does have sort of a brown appearance to it, but it's not that same sort of reddish brown that you get with the cyanobacteria. The cyanobacteria has that red tint to it that's pretty unmistakable. It's very different than the brown diatom algae that you see very commonly in fish tanks. So the glass is a little cleaned off. We can see what's going on in there a little better. Now I'm going to use a siphon hose. Now this is not a regular gravel vac, this is just an open siphon hose, so you got to be careful. I don't want to suck up too much of the substrate. I'm obviously going to get some of it, I can't avoid it. But what I really want to do is suck up any living clumps of the red cyanobacteria I can see down there. And then of course where it's died and turns more of a brownish brown rather than that reddish brown, I try to get that out of here too. And then any dead plant material, I try to suck out the dead shells from the snails that Butterbean eats. And then of course any other little bits and pieces of detritus I can find in the tank. I'm going to try to get this leaf out of here. I don't know if it's going to go through there or not, probably not. Oh, there we go, we got it. So that's pretty much all I need to vac out that I can see. One little piece right there. And so now it's going to be just a matter of finishing draining this out. I'm going to do 5 gallons. I'm going to put 5 gallons back in, and then I'm going to retreat and do a second 2-day cycle of the treatment for the red cyanobacteria. Now I did have one viewer say that instead of going through all this hassle of, you know, gravel vac and siphoning the stuff out and using these different treatments, that I could simply use a broad spectrum antibiotic and it would wipe out the cyanobacteria just as quickly. And that's true, but I'd still have dead cyanobacteria in the tank, so that wouldn't alleviate me having to get in there and siphon it out. I'd still have to do exactly what I'm doing now. It would just be the way I killed the cyanobacteria would be different. I'd be using antibiotics instead of the Chemi product that I use. The reason I use the Chemi product is because a broad spectrum antibiotic will actually kill all the bacteria in your tank, including your beneficial bacteria. So since this gets reintroduced into my tank fairly often, and I have to do this 2 or 3 times a year, I'm not about to wipe out my nitrogen cycle every time I have to get in here and treat for the red cyanobacteria. So that's why I use the Chemi product. It doesn't affect your nitrogen cycle at all, and it's just as effective as killing the cyanobacteria as the antibiotics would be, and it does so without harming my nitrogen cycle. So give me a second, I'll be right back and we'll get the tank filled back up. Now, I've mentioned before how I keep my specific gravity the same from water change to water change, and it's very simple. I just keep a reservoir full of water that is the same specific gravity as the tank, and then I make sure when I do a 5-gallon water change, I take 5 gallons out, I put 5 gallons back in. Now, the evaporation process will change the salinity in the tank, so if the water level's a little low, I will take RO water and actually top the tank off, and that gets the salinity back to where I want it as a starting point of 1.008. And then I take the 5 gallons out, and then I put 5 gallons of 1.008 water back in, and then it doesn't affect my nitrogen cycle at all. So after I'm done with the rest of this water change, I'm going to go ahead and mix up a little bit of the product. I'm not going to bother showing all that. It's just a little bit of powder. You mix it up into some water and pour it into the tank. It's not worth showing. Just follow the instructions on it. We'll get the air stone back in. In fact, what I'm going to do when we're done this part is we're going to do a little feeding video of Butterbean, because nobody's had their dinner yet. And then when dinner's finished, I'll go ahead and put the air stone back in. That way we can get a video of Butterbean having his dinner without having to worry about the air stones in there boogering everything all up. So for the last little bit out of the bucket, I always just go ahead and pour that in. And so there you have it. Now if you wait 2 seconds. And so now we're going to go ahead and just do a feeding video while I go around and feed the rest of my tanks. So there's some snails in there for Butterbean. And I'm going to put a few sprinkles of flake food in there for the other fish. It was interesting to see before I started actually recording the video, I dropped one snail in the center of the tank in an attempt to get Butterbean just to sort of come out and be on video while I was, recording the opening sequence. And one of the snails in the tank, one of the shrimp in the tank had actually come over and was working on the snail while I was shooting the opening sequence. Now, I seriously doubt it came out on camera, and I wasn't going to mess with trying to zoom in on it or anything like that, but I just found it interesting to see that snail, keep calling it a snail, that shrimp, attacking and trying to eat a snail. And just on a side note, while I'm over here at my Black Ghost Knifefish tank, I've got an explosion of blue mystery snails in this tank. So I do have blue mystery snails for sale. I just shipped off a bunch of them today if anybody's interested. I do the same flat rate shipping that I do when I sell aquatic plants. So the total would be $22, but I will send you a bag full of snails. You get probably at least 10, 12 of them for your money. So if anybody's interested in that, check my email down below. the other room for a moment. So that was my first round with the flake food. Now I got to go around and start doing the algae wafers for everybody. And then Butterbean, the puffer you're looking at, and my Tenopoma are the two fish that I actually have sort of special requirements where I've got to go back and do additional food in the form of either freeze-dried krill, or in the case of this puffer, who will eat the freeze-dried krill, but he also eats the snails as his main staple food. And then of course I got my chocolate gourami, and I will often go back and put tubifex worms in the tank for that fish, so that's another sort of specialty feeder. Now that's the algae wafers down. And I suppose one day soon I'll do a feeding video of Butterbean eating some freeze-dried krill, because it's a completely different feeding video when he's not getting them off the bottom and he's actually feeding off the surface, and you can hear his little teeth crunching and you can hear all the little shell getting crunched. So that's it. I've made my rounds. It looks like Butterbean's finished his dinner, so we're going to go ahead and call that the end of this video. And I'm going to say thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe, that way you won't miss anything I got coming up. We are going to continue the treatment on this tank for a few more days. I'm going to get back in there, put the air stone back in, do the treatment that I spoke of, and we'll get started on that again. So if you're subscribed, you won't miss any of the follow-up treatments on this tank or any more feeding videos or anything else. So don't forget, this one is my brackish tank. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you real soon in the next one.